Trust these guys to make a movie? Frankly, no. So click the links to join the channel here over Subscribe Star. I got a mailbox. You can send me what you wish. Drop me, let me know when you mail something so I can go down and check it. So, killing Indiana Jones, a Mangold story. Time traveling Indy fights the Hugo Boss, the evil Hugo Boss gang again. Gee, I haven't seen enough of that in Hollywood. You know, they say it's also tiresome, but it's really more tiresome than even previously imagined. So this guy is exactly the wrong guy to tell this story. He completely misses the point of the character. And that while this is not a reboot, it's been so popular because Hollywood is, as they say, Hollywood has run out of ideas. That's not really accurate. It's that they have so many political commissars staring over their shoulders that they have a checklist of things to go through of women have to have X amount of speaking times. There's got to be enough BLT characters in there. The Pox characters can never be the antagonists. The bad guys literally all have to be light-eyed, light-haired, and light-skinned. For it's like so. Yes, there is a ton of creative, intelligent people in Hollywood who have these commissars staring over their shoulders, and there's just not much they can do with it because they're following a checklist. And if you think, wait, isn't that kind of the definition of propaganda, like straight out of Russia or China or Cuba or something? Yeah, that's why you're getting movies that you're looking at. You're like, these movies don't make sense. It's just, it's 90 minutes or 2 hours of like, especially the Marvel stuff. Something like Black Widow is a good example because was it woke? No. I mean, it wasn't woke. It wasn't offensive. But it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't anything. It's like, was it worth $15? Oh no, not at all. If you had it on a streaming service, was it Disney, you'd probably watch it and then you'd watch it and then after 10 minutes you'd kind of just tune out of it and go back to your phone or your tablet, or maybe you'd watch it but you wouldn't. I mean, you're not gonna directly pay for it because it's just not anything, and you get done with it. And there's a ton of these movies, Shang-Chi, and just like basically every movie over the past 3 or 4 years. You look at it like even Suicide Squad Part 2. You watch that and think, like, everything's in the right place. This should all click, and it just doesn't. It's just a transmission that's just skipping gears. It just never quite connects to the wheels. It moves it forward, but it's just not impressive. And nothing is. And all the stuff that comes out, you look at it like, you guys have all the money in the world. You have the money, you have the talent, you get this everything, sets and tech and all this kind of stuff. But you have political commissars who are telling you, well, you're gonna have to do this. You're gonna have to swap this. It's like it takes all the spark out of. Oh, you want to make an Islamophobic movie that has spark to it? Yeah, because we don't even believe in that concept the same way that you believe in the concept. So, but I mean, we're not the ones making movies. Obviously, we would be shot if we walked in the door. They're making the movies, and you're walking away with stuff that is just everything is Black Widow, where it's just nothing. It's just like one of those rice cakes you bite into. So while this movie isn't a reboot, it feels like a reboot because the original story was 40 years ago now, and they're changing it so much that it's unrecognizable. So it doesn't feel like a continuous story. It feels like just another soy reboot coming out of the political commissars from Hollywood. You would have been better off keeping the characters in the 1940s and just ignoring that the character was getting older. Just tell new stories, Lost World type of stories from H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, Arthur Conan Doyle actually wrote The Lost World, I think. So the first two films were obviously the best, but all four were solid films. But I think the camera work and the set design of Raiders of the Lost Ark makes it a masterpiece, just stands above all else. Like, even if you watch the movie, some of the scenes with the sound off, how they frame some of the shots, you're like, whoa, these guys definitely know what they're doing. And the thing is, as an adult, I understand how hatefully anti-German the story is, but it's still a very enjoyable movie. Even with the German stuff, it's just so silly, Billy. He's got a coat hanger because Germans are so evil. It's like the one group that you can, blonde-haired, light-haired people you can still make fun of. Like, it's, I've seen that 100 times. It's probably time to move on to someone else. Nope, we're just gonna time traveling Hugo Boss. Okay. So, obviously I'm not going to pay for this kind of stuff. Indiana Jones had a certain feeling to it. He was way out of time and place, just off in the middle of some South American jungle somewhere, mountains of the Middle East. He was coming back to civilization to touch base every so often. And when the movie came out in the 80s, the movie was set 40 years earlier. But for kids who saw that film, the earlier setting was locked in their minds. The cars were from the 30s and 40s. It had a certain vibe to it. You know, people riding elephants and that kind of thing. Nobody wanted to see the series leave the 1940s. We certainly don't want to see him running around the 1960s because the 1960s sucked. That was a turning point that started to destroy America. The hippies turned out to be brainwashed globalists. The Christians and old staid fuddy-duddies, turns out they were absolutely correct. If I could go back and watch all the Hollywood propaganda, I realize now how subversive it was. All of it was designed to destroy a nation, and they did. They did it millimeters at a time, slowly pushing the window to the left. From Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Karate Kid, to the stupid Kevin Bacon dancing movie, to all of these, almost everything that came out of Hollywood. The dancing movie, he comes to a small town and he subverts it and corrupts it with the degeneracy of the city, which is, you know, a story writ large today. You go, oh, so you're leaving California and you're going somewhere when you're voting in the exact same policies, that the same people that, so you're. That's just how cultural Marxists. It's like it's the ticks and leeches that spread out, which is, you know, why at this point it'd be better to separate America off into regions and enforce borders so you could keep these people out. Anyway, the thing is, after you put on the They Live sunglasses, you can really see Hollywood, and it looks like maggots writhing on the face of a demon. They killed the country in the 1960s, and we can look back on it in current year and admit, yeah, that's exactly what happened. We don't want to even see the 1960s unless it's a movie to show how the globalists destroyed America, and then you keep flashing back to the 50s and then current America, and you're never going to see a movie like that. That would be an interesting film to see. But, you know, it's kind of like, how many movies have you seen about the communist atrocities or the starvation in the Ukraine, the Holodomor? Or communist atrocities around the world, China, Russia, Cuba, Central America, Southeast Asia. How many movies have you seen about the Russian Bolshevik atrocities? Oh, there's one I know of that's independently crowdfunded, and it's on like Odyssey and Bit Chute and stuff. But that's not what Hollywood is putting out, the atrocities of the Bolsheviks. So no, you're never going to see a based movie ever in America. In fact, you're not going to see many good movies ever again. In fact, I don't know if you'll ever see a good movie again, which sounds like, yes, a hyperbolic statement. But then you pause for a second, look around. Since the 2020 Voldemort paid for summer of mostly peaceful protests that, you know, did result in a few $1 billion of damage and you know, about 100 people who got deleted, and then a few hundred people who also got snuggled. Since that summer of mostly peaceful love, I don't think you're going to see a good movie coming out of mainstream Hollywood ever again. Everything's going to be race swapped. Even the latest Ant-Man movie. I was talking to some hardcore Marvel fans, or the fans of that kind of superhero genre, as I was too for a little while, and then I looked at it like, oh, it's over. So they said that they're going to wait for it to come out on Disney Plus, and these were fans of the genre. But I kind of suspect that movie is going to do well anyway, because people like Paul Rudd. He's really good at just playing some guy. And the previews look cool to me. The quantum world seemed interesting, but the reviewers said it was too much CGI. And then I saw Kang, and I immediately lost all interest. I have PTSD from Mary Sue race swap purse puppies, so I can't watch those shows anymore. If I don't see blonde hair and blue eyes, I get triggered, which means I can't watch Hollywood anymore or I'll get sick. In fact, now whenever I see a Pox character, I just assume it's a race swap and I run the other way. And to be fair, it usually is a race swap, and it's always a cringy purse puppy. Mangold is spending $200 million to make a mediocre movie that people will go see because they're over 40 and they remember the first two movies and they want to see the end of the saga, even if it sucks. Before, you know, Harrison Ford is 80s. This is going to be probably his last movie. It's what happened to Disney Star Wars. People knew that they should not have bothered to watch it and support Disney in any way. But you know, but in 2015, people had no idea about Disney. They that was the first bucket of ice water in their face, and then Disney just went down this bizarre path into Sodom and Gomorrah. People knew it was the last time to see Harrison, Carrie, and Mark together before they passed into a spirit world far, far away. You know, rest in peace, Carrie. It's like during that movie, that series, she passed. It's like you had that opportunity to put all three of them together and make the movie about them. But of course, Abrams and Johnson ruined it. Hey, cattle, we subverted expectations because you're expecting Star Wars and you got cultural Bolshevism. Anyway, so Mangold is going to tell a story where Indy's in the modern world and he's depressed instead of hopeful, but the audience is depressed also because even though the 1960s were the start of the decline, it was still an America that was a paradise compared to this current Sodom and Gomorrah. Any day now, we're expecting the angels to knock at our door and tell us to head for the hills and don't look back. Yeah, really, the knock at the door is going to come from the political commissars, the known as the globalist FBI, who you think, oh, they're going to put us in the gulags. Well, that, hope springs eternal that you'll make it to the gulags, because realistically, that would be the best. Yes, that would be the best of the world, is if you could make it to the gulags and not just go to the ditch right then and there, because communism has a pretty good history of fertilizing fields. So this is not what Indy is all about. It's not exactly a story of hope. I mean, hope is there, but it's an entirely different worldview. The concept was he's running around grabbing artifacts to put them in a museum to preserve them and teach the world, because the truth is, if they stay in place, later generations will just destroy them. If you leave the stuff in the Middle East, the tallywhackers will just come along and blow it up, because that's what they do. Because it was pre their religion, so it's offensive to them. And, it's like they don't care about this world. They're focused on the spirit world. So, yes, it's better to steal the artifact, put it in a museum, because otherwise it will be lost forever. That is just the pragmatic world of the real. Because many cultures do not have the concept of preservation or museums. They build sites and graves, and there's many cultures that don't even do that. And then later generations will just come along and destroy them. They have no idea what the stuff was there for in the first place. So the culture constantly recycles itself. You'll rarely get artifacts because they have no civilization that understands the concept of preserving something for the future to learn from. The European understands that concept, and I mean a lot of it has to do with once you have a written language, it's like a written language is a point of ascension for man that. It kind of reminds me of like David Brin and the Uplift War stories. There's points on like the humanity timeline and that's one of them. And then probably, computers is the next one. And then, once computers pass a certain point where they can design themselves, that'll be the next one. That'll probably be the end of man. But anyway, so the European understands that concept, and this is a W for the Englishman. But with this current cultural Marxist propaganda, everything the Englishman does is bad. Thanks Saul Alinsky, Frankfurt School. And everything the non-Europeans do is good, because that's the messaging that's coming out of globalist media and the controlled schools. Except it's not. The whole thing is nonsense. And until people awaken and realize what's going on, nothing is going to change. They'll keep following these bad ideas because they've been brainwashed to think it's not politically correct to criticize them. So if this image of Indy running around with the cars from the early 60s in the background, that's not Indy. That's just a final cash grab. And there's some woman in the movie. So that's a hard no. She's going to be a brainwashed feminist. That's just, it's so cringy. Feminism died in 2016 when Trump came to power. The rise of the dark ages of Trump. And then they've shifted all their energy to focusing on Trump. And now that has been replaced with trans, so that kind of supplanted feminism, where now feminism has to include, true feminism has the trans women are the true feminists. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of old school feminists who are looking around like, okay. And they're looking at these new feminists and they're looking around for someone to say something like, we can't say anything or we'll get fired. Okay, so this is this is the new face of feminism. It's like, yes, you'll literally get fired if you speak up against it. Your bank will debank you, cancel your accounts. All the financial institutions will stop you from taking part. You won't be able to use PayPal, Patreon, all those coffee sites, MasterCard, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, any credit card companies. You'll be fired and permanently blacklisted. Feels like NGOs shouldn't have that much power to destroy people's lives. If you say that, men aren't, what J.K. Rowling said. Seems like we should be, if free speech also means being protected from trillion-dollar industries and billion-dollar companies who are actually the ones who have more power than the government. I mean, the First Amendment, yes, it's applied to the government. We get that. But the concept of free speech is so valuable, but that is it. If we're not protected from these billion-dollar companies, then it's meaningless. And the Founding Fathers clearly understood the value of free speech. maybe someone should get around protecting the individual liberty against a billion-dollar company who have the power to destroy our lives. And the government also has the power to protect us and free speech. But it's weird that they're not doing anything about it. Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. I mean, because, they have you're paying them taxpayer money. It's like they have this duty of due care to you, this fiduciary duty to be representatives. It means they represent. But, one time in American history, there was a tea tax, right? And they got so upset about that they sought legal, peaceful, constitution-protected redress of grievance. And you look at your representatives now, and you go, we're not getting represented, and it's orders of magnitude worse than that little tea in the harbor type of situation. Oh, but we have sports ball to watch. Then we have, the soy slop to suck down. I want more high fructose corn syrup and maybe some more prawn, because not enough children are being exposed to prawn. Oh, that's another weird thing. It's like, why do we have... So you say, like, the average age of kids can be exposed to, like, these violent, hardcore... Just the most violent stuff. Is like 10-year-old kids are being exposed to that. Yeah, free speech. Yeah, I don't think the founding fathers intended that. I mean, why don't we do something about that? Oh, we can't, because all these activist lawyers. I think we could. I think we actually could if we made it a priority. I think we could do things about a lot of things, about individual liberty and while simultaneously getting rid of like the most violent, degenerate prawn that children have access to. I think we could do things about all these kind of things, but I don't think this current iteration of the government could do these things. Anyway, so the thing is with the feminism being replaced with the trans issue. How long is this thing? 16 minutes. I totally support it because it accelerates the destruction of the left wing, because it causes a division between, the women and the BLT part of that aspect of the feminist issue, because there's no solution. It's an irreconcilable difference of. They want to be in these spaces, and the women don't want them in these spaces. Like, there's no compromise on that. So it's like that's a rift that just keeps partying, which is why it's like you want to support the more extreme version of it, because they attack the middle ground, and then the middle ground, they go, liberals get the bullet too. The middle ground kind of finally realizes like, we have to become the new conservatives. So that puts them in the relative political position of being conservatives, and it changes the psychology around entirely. I mean, there's a ton of psychology to this movement, a ton of understanding of this movement. And the effed up thing is the left wing understands this way better than the right wing, because they've been political. Because the right wing, I mean, it's another video, but like, unless the right wing gets way more politically active, you're just going to continue to see this kind of degeneracy, this stuff just, hey, more. So you got kids on stage and adult men are throwing dollar bills at them? That's actually happening in current year? Yeah. Oh, okay. That's kind of weird. I was talking about Indiana Jones. I got off on a distraction, but people usually don't make it to the end of the videos anyway. So like, comment, subscribe, join the subscribe star if you wish. And I will see you guys, or join the Rumble too, Rumble Odyssey. They have all the videos cloned over there. I'll see you guys all next episode.